of the Farnbacker Racing Lexus this weekend, and that is in place of Mario Farnbacker, and it's Norbert Seidler who is in the car for this session. 6 races into the season, we have also got a really, really interesting championship. It's currently being led by the Emil Frey Racing Lexus of Albert Costa and Philip Frommerville, twice winners this year in Estoril and Spa, but a less than ideal weekend in Paul Ricard means that they only added 10 points to their tally, so they're on 43 points. Second in the standings is Thomas Biaggi and Giovanni Venturini on 39 points, with Fran Rader and Victor Bouveng in third on 38 points. The same number of points that the fourth place car in the series, Miguel Ramos and Mikel Mack, have got, with then the Farnbacker Racing Lexus in fifth. Now this is one of the new additions to the grid this weekend, which is another of the BMWs. It is the Racing Trevor car of Yuri and Christian Malkarek, the Slovakian drivers. And great to see the Racing Trevor team on the grid. And it is Christian who is at the wheel of the car for the purposes of this session. There is the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini of Andrea Fontana. And they had got their maiden podium last time out in Paul Ricard. Vito Postiglione and Andrea Fontana richly rewarded. They were very unlucky not to be on the rostrum in race 2 in Spa, but a fine second place to Victor Bouveng and Fran Rueda. Now, the Hungaroring is a circuit which is notoriously tough on tyres. They have got just 16 Michelin tyres to get them through the weekend, and therefore tyre management strategy is going to be absolutely key, both for this session but also the remainder of the races. Therefore, talking to some of the drivers in the paddock this morning, they were saying that although it was the MS Racing Mercedes of Martin Conrad and Alexander Raquina who were quickest in free practice, that the free practice times should be taken with a hint of caution, and it's really going to be qualifying where we see who can push. Duncan Tappy at the wheel of the Garage 59 McLaren, certainly a driver we would anticipate to be towards the sharp end of the times, because this is a track that the smart money suggests is going to favour the McLaren in the way that Estoril did at the start of the season, whereas Paul Ricard seemed to really suit the Ferraris and BMWs. So here's Thiago Monteiro at the wheel of the Teo Marti Motorsport BMW. Lorenzo Beirao de Viega, who has already so far this season had Antonio Felix da Costa, Nelson Piquet Jr. and Augusto Farfus partnering him. It's now Monteiro, of course, a Formula 1 podium finisher at the 2005 American Grand Prix, wheel of a Jordan car. As Christian Malkarek at the wheel of the Racing Trevor BMW embarks on coming towards the end of it's potentially being quite a quick lap, as Victor Bouveng moves and puts in an early marker, a 1:54.4. But still quite a few cars that haven't yet poked their nose into the session just yet, as Malkarek accelerates through, goes quickest to 1:49.7. So beginning to wind up the pace in the BMW. They've of course got 30 minutes to play with, and what we're going to see is a couple of teams maybe doing a couple of runs. There'll be others that will be hoping just to do a solitary run, and therefore not get the best out of a couple of sets of tyres, save them back for the races. Duncan Tappy is on an absolute flyer in the Garage 59 McLaren, and it's Tappy who's just done the fastest 2 sectors of the session so far, and he is set to put in the pole time, provided it all goes to plan through sector 3, which is going to be in the region of a 1:46. Martin Conrad goes quickest to 1:45.6. So the very amiable Austrian driver Martin Conrad was very, very quick. Paul Ricard, and he's been quick again this weekend. Tappy, though, quicker still at 1:44.8. Now here is Albert Costa, the championship leader, former McGann Trophy champion, former Renault 2-litre Euro Cup champion as well. The Emil Frey Racing Lexus, Norbert Seidler in the Farnbacker Racing Lexus. The Farnbacker team having a wretched weekend, and Paul Ricard, 2 retirements for them. and they did go into the French round as the championship leaders. That unfortunately went away from them somewhat. But in the way that Estoril suited the Lexus, just wonder whether or not it's a car that may also relish the Hungaroring. Meanwhile, up into second place, the SBS Automotive Mercedes of Lance D'Arnold, who moves in to partner Valentin Pierberg this weekend in place of Tom Onslow Cole. That a car that scored an outright podium in France. Again, bang on the pace in the early stages of qualifying as Seidler ducks into the pits, having done a couple of outlaps. Here is Martin Conrad, the MS Racing Mercedes. He and Alexander Hakwina, 2 AM-class podiums in Paul Ricard a couple of weeks ago. Disappointing run for them, of course, in Spa. Car out the weekend, only a couple of laps into the first race of the weekend. But pace setters yesterday in free practice, and Conrad goes third, a 1:45.2. Again, this is a track that suits the Mercedes. What was really impressive yesterday for Conrad and Flaquina was they were very rapid during the 2 full field free practice sessions, and then actually improved their time during the bronze driver session yesterday evening. Shows the circuit getting quicker as well. It's another Mercedes which is potentially going to move up to the top of the times, because Lance D'Arnold in the SBS Automotive car has just done the fastest middle sector of anybody. Only needs to find 2/10 to overhaul Duncan Tappy. And here he comes now, accelerating out of the final turn. The bright green Mercedes accelerates along the start and finish straight, goes quickest, a 1:44.3. Great performance from the German, and is half a second up on the Garage 59 McLaren of Duncan Tappy. A couple of quick cars just coming into the session. Oh, and a problem there for Marco Ciocci in the AF Course Ferrari, and Ciocci pulling off the road just out of turn 1. And that is an outlap as well for Ciocci. Meanwhile, Albert Costa goes second as it's a bit of a queue, begins to form. Now there is Ciocci, yeah, of course, Ferrari. And are we going to see an interruption to the session here? It's not. Yes, we are. The red flag comes out, far from the easiest place to recover the Ferrari of Ciocci. And therefore, the session comes to a close, or a temporary halt, at about 1/3 distance. Frustration for a lot of the field, not least Rob Bell there in the Balfour Motorsport McLaren, who was just on an outlap. Even more frustration, one would suspect, for Lance D'Arnold in the SPS Automotive Mercedes, because he had gone quicker still through Sector 1 at the point at which the red flag came out to bring a halt to proceedings. Glimpse there of Henrik Still in the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan, which we saw for the first time this season in Paul Ricard as the rescue vehicle arrives on the scene, and it looks as if Marco Ciocci is gesticulating that it needs a flatbed truck and a lift, as the Raton Racing Lamborghini of Kang Ling, again one of the drivers who was just an outlap, retreats to the pits in the Lamborghini Huracan. Now, of course, unlike the free practice sessions, the clock is stopped when the red flag comes out. So this is just going to be a momentary frustration for these drivers more than anything else. A few cars we've not yet seen in the session, including Michael Mack, winner of race 1 in Paul Ricard in the Spirit of Race Ferrari, and Vitantonio Liuzzi in the Triple F Lamborghini. And Liuzzi and Hiroshi Hamaguchi having an absolutely wretched time of it in France, of course, because the car caught fire on the installation lap to the grid at the start of race 1, and by the time the conflagration had been put out, the car was sadly finished for the weekend. and Liuzzi and Hamaguchi, they've not really had ideal start to the season. The best result of the year to date for them of 6th place, and that came actually in the first race of the year in Estoril. So the International GTOpen returning to the Hungaroring for the first time since 2014, having also made a visit a couple of years before in 2012, a track that has produced some great racing through the years when the championship has visited, not least because it's a track where overtaking is possible, but it's challenging, and therefore we've had some wonderful hare and tortoise races where cars on very second-hand rubber have just been able to keep the pack at bay behind them, as Christian Melchorek is going to head the queue just ahead of Rob Bell when we do get going. I think Bell in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren will be hoping for some clear track to try and set a quick time. So the current order then is Lance D'Arnold in the SPS Automotive Mercedes in pole. Second is Albert Costa, championship leader in the ML Frey Racing Lexus. Third to Duncan Tappy in the Garage 59 McLaren. Fourth is Martin Conrad in the MS Racing Mercedes, head of the DriveX Mercedes of Marcello Hahn, who is in 5th. Christian Maltrek in the Racing Trevor BMW in 6th. From Mario Plasciuta, the Lechner Racing Mercedes in 7th. Andrea Fontana in the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini is in 8th. From Norbert Siedler in the Farnbacher Lexus in 9th. Victor Bouveng and the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW completes the top 10, although these times all really provisional because it's only the SPS McLaren, the SPS Mercedes rather, that's done more than one flying lap. So yet to see the full hand from people. Hopefully the recovery of Marco Ciocci's Ferrari won't take too long. And also hopefully whatever's gone wrong for Ciocci, it's not an overly significant problem, and that he and Pier Giuseppe Perezzini will be back in action in time for the race, because we've got multiple championships to keep an eye on this year. We've of course got the overall championship, but then there's the very keenly contested Pro-Am championship, and that is being led by Perezzini and Ciocci. They are just 2 points clear of Rob Bell and Sean Balfe in the Pro-Am standings. And in the overall championship, Ciocci and Perezzini are 6th, Bell and Balfe are in 7th place. So all quiet in the pit lane as the heat haze begins to shimmer off the cars. And certainly that the fear had been, looking at the weather forecast for the weekend, was that the whole of today's running was going to be rain affected. Looks like the rain arrived a little bit earlier than planned yesterday evening, and with a stiff breeze, the track drying out very quickly. Hopefully ideal conditions to go racing later on this afternoon. The race, when we do get underway later today, green flag at 4:15 local time, which means our coverage will start about 10 minutes beforehand. And as ever, www.gtopen.net, you'll be able to watch the races live and in full with British or Italian commentary as per your preference. So the session will restart in 30 seconds time. We've still got 2/3 of the session to run. And an indication from the session so far that the Mercedes and the McLarens in good form. There is Com Ledegaard just conversing with Alexander West, who is qualifying for this session in the Garage 59 McLaren. West and Ledegaard, who had a fantastic 3rd place finish in the very, very wet race in Spa-Francorchamps earlier in the season after a sterling drive late on from Ledegaard. They're currently 8th overall in the championship, but suffered a little bit from a difficult weekend in France. So the green flag goes back out as the session resumes. So the track about to get crowded imminently as they all accelerate down out of the pit lane, get back up to speed. I think we'll expect to see Rob Bell pushing for a quick lap fairly promptly in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. Also likewise for Norbert Siedler in the Farnbacher Lexus. He's got the Lechner Mercedes. Thomas Jaeger and Mario Plasciuta, who made their seasonal debut in Paul Ricard, having an excellent weekend. And there is Rob Bell, Balfe McLaren, to the 4 of the queue. Also Vittorio Liuzzi the Triple F Lamborghini Huracan. So a couple of drivers coming out and will be hoping to set a quick lap. Albert Costa looking to get the Lexus back into podium contention. And for Tiago Monteiro, can he get Lorenzo Beirão to his first podium trip of the season as well? The BMW may be a little bit less suited to the Hungaroring circuit. It's the Triple F Racing Conrad Lamborghinis run in tandem, winding their way through this fairly sinuous Hungaroring circuit. Bulk of the layout here, of course, unchanged really since the circuit was constructed in the mid-1980s. It's just the front straight towards turn 1 that's been elongated somewhat, and also from the earliest years of the circuit, chicane midway around the track as well has also been removed just to speed it up a little bit. As Liuzzi accelerates through the final turn, goes into his first flying lap of the session. Down the start and finish straight. On the brakes towards turn 1, the road really does fall away quite steeply, and there's a fair degree of elevation change around this Hungaroring circuit as Michael Mack just emerges from the pits in the Spirit of Race Ferrari. So the time to beat is a 1 minute 44.3 from Lance D. Arnold. He's going to be on for it on his first lap. We'll find out. He's coming towards the end of the first sector now. Kicks through the left-hander, rides the curbs, a 37.2 for Liuzzi. Rob Bell also on the quick lap. He's done a 37.1 through the opening sector, but it's the middle sector which is the longest sector on the lap and the one that really gives an indication as to how the car is handling the acceleration and braking through what feels to the drivers like a never-ending sequence of turns. Liuzzi hunting his first podium of the season, maybe hunting something a little bit more than that, and he is through the second sector, 38.7. So this has been a reasonably good lap so far from Vittorio Liuzzi, although for comparison Albert Costa through sector 2 is just on 38.0, which is the best middle sector of anybody of the session so far, as Liuzzi swings through the final turn. And what lap time are we going to have offered up here from Liuzzi? It's going to be in the 1 minute 45s. It is, no it's not, it's a 1 minute 44.8 for Vittorio Liuzzi. So that moves him into third position. But he might go even better still now that he's got the Michelin tyre fully up to speed on this second flying lap. Meanwhile, Giovanni Venturini is on a quick one. So is Lance D'Arnold. Albert Costa improved his time to 1 minute 44.3. He remains second, just 8 thousandths of a second now adrift of the Pole City Mercedes. Here's Rob Bell in the Balfe McLaren. Rides the curbs, pushing hard. And Bell currently in 7th position, but he's a little bit quicker through to one he was on the previous lap. We've had a time deleted for Hendrik Still. The stewards of the meeting being robust in their enforcement of the track limits. Meanwhile, the new car moves to the top of the times. It's Giovanni Venturini. Here he is, the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini, 1 minute 43.9. So that gives him the advantage by just over a tenth of a second. The second place Mercedes also improving its lap time to a 1 minute 44.1. And so now the session really beginning to pick up pace as we approach the midpoint. But some of these cars might just be looking for a one and done on runs. Others may well venture out for a second crack of the whip. Lost a lap time for Norbert Seidler. So the order is currently Venturini from Lance D'Arnold, then it's Vittorio Liuzzi, Albert Costa in 4th, Duncan Tappy in 5th, Christian Mautrek in the Racing Trevor BMW. He is currently in 14th place as Michael Mack goes 4th. in the Spirit of Race Ferrari. So we've got Lamborghini from Mercedes, from Lamborghini, Ferrari, Lexus, and then BMW in 6th, because Thiago Monteiro has just jumped to 6th, and Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. First the McLarens, then Duncan Tappy in 7th, Rob Bell in 8th, Martin Conrad in the NMS Mercedes in 9th, and Hendrik Still currently completes the top 10 as Lance D'Arnold comes through to complete another lap and doesn't improve. He was in a little bit of traffic there with Marcio Basso in the sporty new Mercedes. That just cost him a little bit now. Well, we've got lots of cars on quick laps at the moment. Mikel Mack, Albert Costa and Thiago Monteiro, all much for muchness, 36.9s through Sector 1. We follow Thiago Monteiro, the Portuguese, in the BMW. There's Mikel Mack, he's just behind Albert Costa. So these three cars, they're going to come to the end of the lap in fairly short succession. We've got another lost time for Norbert Siedler, and it was a very good one that he's lost as well. And also a time lost as well for Mario Plasciuta. Through the middle sector, they've all set very similar times, this group of cars, 38.1s. So we might see slight improvement as Monteiro climbs the hill towards the conclusion of the lap. It's Albert Costa who will be the first of this triumvirate across the line. Costa doesn't improve. Mikel Mack does, a 1 minute 43.7 for Mack. He goes second, and Monteiro goes 5th, 1 minute 44.3. So the order is now pole position to Giovanni Venturini, a 1 minute 43.6. Second, Mikel Mack, 79 thousandths of a second adrift in the Spirit of Race Ferrari. Third is Lance D'Arnold in the SPS Automotive Mercedes. Fourth, Vitantonio Liuzzi in the Triple F Racing Lamborghini. And then 5th, Thiago Monteiro in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. But here comes Mikel Mack. He's on for another quick one here, pushing hard at the wheel of the Spirit of Race Ferrari. Rides the curb, does a personal best through Sector 1. He needs to find just 79 thousandths of a second. Uses every inch of the road. As the car that he is trying to overhaul, Giovanni Venturini, is into the pit lane, possibly to wind up for another run. We've got Vitantonio Liuzzi just ahead in the Triple F Lamborghini. Sporting driving there from Liuzzi, jumps away, and so that shouldn't delay Mikel Mack. We'll see as Mack swings onto the short straight that brings him towards the end of the second sector. Is again a personal best middle sector for Mikel Mack. So this could be a lap that moves him up into pole position. We'll find out in about 10 seconds time as he heads towards the final turn. Mack, who was on pole position for race 1 in Paul Ricard, might do it again here in Hungary. Out of the final turn, accelerates through, breaks the timing beam now. Oh, and he lets it go through the final sector. He improves his time, a 1 minute 43.646, 15 thousandths of a second adrift of Giovanni Venturini as a result. So the cars that we've not maybe seen as sharply through the field as we would have expected are the McLarens, with Duncan Tappy in the Garage 59 McLaren in 8th place, Rob Bell, the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, in 9th. They're both in the pits and readying themselves for another run. Front of the field it is Venturini from Mack, and Mikel Mack is on an even better lap this time around. Let's stay with him because he's just set the best first sector of anybody in the session so far, a 36.7 for Mack. And in fact, he lost that last lap. It was deleted for track limits. And we just saw, it was coming out of turn 13. He got all four wheels over the white line. He remains in second, though, nonetheless. But we are seeing quick times needed for drivers as Mack picks his way around Andrea Fontana in the Imperiale Racing car. And Mack through the middle sector, not quite as quick, in amongst some traffic. So that possibly has taken away the opportunity for the Danish driver to set an improved time. He concurs, ducks into the pit lane. possibly to get a new set of boots on. Still a third of the session to run. Few improvements going on lower down the field. Fu Song Yang up into 18th place in the SF Racing Ferrari. Marcio Basso to 16th in the Sporting Mercedes, and Mario Plasciuta up to 15th in the Lechner Racing Mercedes. Kang Ling and Alex West yet to set a quick time. Marco Ciocci, who brought out that red flag, if you recall, he has just emerged from the pit lane, it would appear. See whether or not that's true. Let's have a look. Michael Mack, yeah, delayed behind Andrea Fontana. Jinked around him. That's always the difficulty when you're on a flying lap and you just get caught, you have to lift. Fontana currently in 20th place, I should add. His teammate Giovanni Venturini, of course, currently in pole. But still a lot more to come in this session. Rob Bell, as far as we can see, has just emerged from the pits. Duncan Tappy also about to emerge from the pit lane as well. So let's see what the McLarens can do. Hendrick still in the Conrad Lamborghini, going well. He's currently in 13th. There's Kang Ling, the Raton Racing Lamborghini, yet to set a flying lap. So we'll get a sense as Ling lives dangerously. The stewards this weekend really having eagle eyes for anybody who puts four wheels over the white line like that. And that's when you get into the territory of having your lap time deleted for track limit abuse. Hopefully lessons will be learned in qualifying and it won't impact on the result of the race later on. Meanwhile, Rob Bell has just set the fastest first sector of anybody in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. Here he is. So Bell currently in 10th place because Christian Mautarek has moved up into 8th. Martin Conrad has also jumped up into 5th in the MS Racing Mercedes, and you can see just how hard Bell is pushing. 38.1 through the middle sector, which is a little bit slower than we've seen in the session, but it's still good from Rob Bell as he climbs the hill through the final right-hander, winds up the throttle as he now accelerates towards the start and finish line. He needs to improve on 1 minute 45.1. I think he should do that. He goes third at 1 minute 43.8 for Rob Bell, and he's got clear track again for another crack at the whip if he wants it. Just 0.2 of a second adrift of pole position for Rob Bell, as the Balfe Motorsport McLaren swings downhill. The other driver to watch for is Victor Bouveng. He's just done a best first sector of the session. Timing screen confirms that Kang Ling loses that lap we were watching for track limits as we picked up. So here is Albert Costa. Costa on an out lap, so he's about to start a flying lap. Currently in 8th place, the championship leader, the Emil Frey Racing Lexus. Not been such a good first sector on this lap for Rob Bell. 2 tenths down on his previous lap. More shuffling, and the shuffling is that Rob Bell, in fact, has just lost that lap we were watching. So the 1 minute 43.8 for Rob Bell disappears. So he moves back down into 11th place, and this is a topsy-turvy session. We're heading towards the closing stages of it. We have got in excess of 20 cars on the track as Victor Bouveng moves third in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. We've not seen that lap, but he goes third at 1 minute 44.0. So it's still Giovanni Venturini in pole. Second is Michael Mack. Third now is Victor Bouveng. Fourth, Lance D'Arnold. Fifth, Vitantonio Liuzzi. Sixth, Martin Conrad. Seventh, Thiago Montero. Eighth, Albert Costa. Ninth, Christian Mautarek. And 10th is Duncan Tappy. There is Victor Bouveng. And Bouveng and Fran Rueda starting to put together a rather handy tilt towards the championship. They're currently third in the standings. but have really gained in momentum as the season has unfolded. Disappointing weekend at Estoril to start the year, but thereafter have been in contention. 2 podiums already to their credit, including that race victory in Paul Ricard. But Bouveng has been shuffled down to 5th because Liuzzi has gone 3rd, a 1:38.43.8, and Duncan Tappy's gone 4th. But not for long. Albert Costa moves to the top of the times. Costa in the Emil Frey Racing Lexus now takes pole position, a 1:43.3. But for how long? Because Lance D'Arnold and Victor Bouveng are both on good laps. It's the SPS Automotive Mercedes, which I think is going to be the first of those cars to cross the line. So Costa, he's backed out of it. He's slowed down. But it's the SPS Mercedes which comes past me now and goes quickest. So Lance D'Arnold goes to pole position, a 1:43.0. 3/10 exactly up on Albert Costa. Costa 2nd, Venturini 3rd. He's on an outlap. Michael Mack into 4th, Liuzzi 5th, Bouveng 6th. Duncan Tappy, I fear, lost his improved time. Indeed he did. So he gets shuffled down to 14th. With the time being deleted. So Bouveng 6th, Conrad 7th, Montero 8th, Rob Bell in 9th, and Kang Ling completes the top 10. This is the car that currently holds pole position. Question mark about how long that state of affairs is going to last, but 3/10 of a second is going to be a fairly big ask for anybody to overhaul. He's backed out of it. We've got just 3.5 minutes left on the clock. So we might start to see the track emptying out in a few moments' time as those that have done their best laps venture towards the pits. Now the driver who's really pushing is Giovanni Venturini. Venturini has just done the fastest first sector of the session, 36.5. And I think that's Venturini just behind the Mercedes we're watching. We'll see of moments on a slightly wider shot. Now here is Venturini, so this is going to be worth watching. Thiago Montero meanwhile goes 2nd with a 1:43.3, so he sneaks up ahead of Albert Costa. And the track being busy, finding some clear air is proving to be a challenge for several of the cars in the field. Venturini has done his best middle sector of the session, swoops through the final turn. Are we going to see the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini into pole? They're still in pursuit of their first victory of the season, Venturini and Biaggi. As across the line now comes Venturini, goes 2nd, so he misses out on pole by 21 thousandths of a second, and he may lose out further still, because Michael Mack, here he is, has just posted the quickest middle sector of the session so far. He's chasing Mario Plasciuta, but it was a phenomenal middle sector from Michael Mack as well. And for my money, I think this is going to be good enough for pole if he has a good final sector. Across the line now comes Michael Mack, and he does go to pole. A 1:42.9 for Michael Mack. So just shy of 2/10 clear of Lance D'Arnold. The pace of the session really accelerating as we head towards the final 90 seconds of what has been an absolutely thrilling qualifying session. And it's Mack who goes top. Lots of improvements elsewhere. Andrea Fontana potentially on the cusp of a very stealthily quick lap, or he was, till it all went away from him in the middle sector. So the order is Mack from Arnold, then Venturini in 3rd, Montero is 4th. Oh, as Michael Mack gets squeezed out there by Mario Plasciuta. A little bit too close for comfort. 5th is Albert Costa, the championship leader. 6th, Antonio Liuzzi. 7th, Victor Bouveng. 8th, Martin Conrad. 9th, Duncan Tappy. 10th, Andrea Fontana. 11th, Rob Bell. Don't forget both Tappy and Bell losing very good laps as a result of track limits. Now here we see really chopped across his bowels there for Michael Mack. It's they both close up onto Ivor Dunbar. He's currently 23rd, Chiocci of course in 24th. As he brought out the red flag earlier on, he hasn't re-emerged. That was the timing screen telling us stories. Had another lap time deleted for Kang Ling. So he drops back into 16th as the checkered flag about to come out on the session. As Mac ducks into the pits. There are a couple that may yet be able to hustle improvement from this qualifying session. Thiago Monteiro, possibly not one of them in the Teo Marti Motorsport BMW, given the poise of that car. But the car in second place, Lance D'Arnold, certainly is. He has just done his personal best, Sector 1. He's going to get in amongst some traffic, maybe in Sector 2. As Montero ducks into the pit lane. Yeah, certainly the SPS Mercedes may complete lap. Andrea Fontana also potentially winning the Imperial Earlier Racing Lamborghini. Norbert Seidler, by the way, the Farnbacher Lexus, currently down in 14th place. So, fascinating race in prospect later on. It's the last few cars coming through to check the checker flag. Improvements looking unlikely. And in fact, most of them ducking to the pits. So, a thrilling session and one that sets us up beautifully for the race later on. As we follow Duncan Tappy, but he's back right out of that lap and will be heading to the pits as well. Currently 9th place for Duncan Tappy. There's a little bit of work to do for him as Mikael Mack enjoys the congratulations of the Spirit of Race Ferrari team. Really impressive performance in qualifying from Mack, as he and Miguel Ramos, they're only 5 points off the lead of the championship. Good result this afternoon. Could see them to the fore of things, because that's the way this season's gone, is with such a huge grid and such an evenly matched grid, we've not seen anybody be really able to run away in the points so far. So look then at the classification. So Mikael Mack takes pole position from Lance D'Arnold in second, then Giovanni Venturini and Thiago Monteiro on the second row of the grid. And then Albert Costa and Liuzzi, 5th and 6th from Victor Bouveng and Martin Conrad. Duncan Tappy in 9th, just clear of Andrea Fontana, who concludes the top 10. Very little to choose between them, just 1.4 seconds. Rob Bell in 11th, having lost his best lap of the session, ahead of Henrik Still. Christian Maucherek, fine 13th in the Racing Trevor BMW from Norbert Seidler. Lots to do in the Farnbacher Lexus. Kang Ling, a troubled session en route to 15th from Antonio Coimbra and Alex West. Then Mario Plasciuta and Marcello Hahn. Marco Chiocci, the disappointment of not setting a time. What can he do from the back of the grid? We will find out at 4:15 this afternoon. Until then, from Ben Evans in the Hungaroring, it's goodbye.